Hello, hello. Welcome to the 22nd episode of the Veggies Abroad Vegan Travel Podcast with the Chief Veggie Pusher, myself, Rebecca Gady-Swicky. Some of you may already be familiar with Veggies Abroad, but for those of you who aren't, we're a full-service vegan travel company that offers custom planning services, small group trips, a helpful blog chock full of just about everything a vegan or veg-curious traveler could possibly need, and this podcast. With this podcast, I hope to bring you guys the inside scoop on what vegan-friendly, and eco-friendly businesses are doing in the wide world of travel. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind travel time over here. A few weeks ago, we were in Japan, and now we're less than a week away from our vegan tour to Bali. It feels a little crazy that it's happening because planning for this happened honestly eons ago, or it feels like eons ago. I remember going through the itinerary thinking, oh man, this is really ways away. And now it's finally almost here. This trip will be really fantastic. We will get to see a little bit of the touristy stuff, but we'll also spend a good amount of time off the beaten path with some really cool local activities. We have the opportunity to learn Balinese blessings from a local family. We're taking a sunrise hike, going snorkeling, enjoying a vegan cooking class, and so much more. I know you're probably all very jealous, as you should be, but don't be. We have a few other tours set up for next year that will be equally as cool. Like, how about exploring Iceland's epic ring road in the late spring? We will definitely get off the beaten path with that one. Or gorgeous Thailand? Just don't wait too long with Thailand. There are actually only 4 spots left from that trip. You can, not we, can check out all of next year's tours by visiting veggiesabroad.com. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I really do like hearing from all of you. Today's interview makes me really happy and honestly inspires me to keep pushing for change within the travel industry. If you've listened to this podcast before or subscribed to my newsletter, you know I place a great deal of emphasis on supporting businesses that are trying to make a difference. It's no secret that the travel industry is riddled with all sorts of issues: environmental, human inequality, cruelty, and more. And it doesn't have to be this way, and it shouldn't be this way. Thankfully, there are hotels and tour operators who agree. Today's guest comes from the beautiful resort Playa Viva on Mexico's Pacific coast. There is so much that they're doing that I love. It's 100% off the grid, powered by solar, has an on-site gray and black water processing system, a permaculture farm that supplies produce to its restaurant, has biodiversity restoration projects, community projects, and it is one of the highest rated B-Corp hotels in the world. If you listen to my chat with Daryl Wade from Intrepid Travel, we talked about our frustrations with travel companies thinking that they can't afford to be a part of the solutions to many of the problems that communities face around the world. He said, we, as in the travel industry, can't afford not to be. I'd say the team at Playa Viva would probably agree with that, and they are also a wonderful example of not doing that and being a part of the solution, and have a solid framework for other hotels to emulate. So joining me today is Kerry Skinner. Kerry is a marketing PR specialist focusing on regenerative tourism models, currently consulting at the award-winning B-Corp certified hotel Playa Viva, with a portfolio that includes trailblazing clients such as Regenerative Travel and Shintamani Wild Bensley Collection. Kerry is passionate about leveraging tourism as a powerful tool to bring abundance and positive change to underserved ecosystems and communities around the world. So let's chat with Kerry. Hi, Kerry. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I am really looking forward to this conversation and learning more about Playa Viva and kind of the idea of regenerative travel and how hotels are trying to make more of a difference in the communities and the environments where they live, and why it's so important for travelers to make these connections as well. So let's hop right into it. And I'd love to know, how did Playa Viva get started? From the beginning, was it always a passion for making a meaningful impact?
Yeah, absolutely. So Playa Viva is celebrating its 15th anniversary this year. It's a big milestone.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no, it is because I think especially like being able to say that, because 15 years ago when David and his now ex-wife Sandra founded the property, they did found it on these eco principles. And really at that time, like 15 years ago, people wouldn't have, when they're like, oh, we're going to build 100% off-grid hotel. People were like, okay, it's not so common as it is now. Even saying like, oh, it'll be using solar, we're going to build it on using materials from the land. People were like, oh, that's interesting. It's not, you don't have the marketing benefits like you would now if you said that you were going to do that. So yeah, David and Sandra initially, so they found the land. It's 200 acres on the Pacific coast of Mexico, just down from Zihuatanejo. It used to be a coconut grove, so it was but had been left and was overgrown, and people would have been like, you guys are crazy. That's just what wilderness, wild. But they saw an opportunity, and also an opportunity to bring back abundance to that land. So instead of, I think the planning permission for, I might miscredit, but it was for like a 200-room hotel, standard glass, concrete, big swimming pool, kind of traditional concept for a hotel. And Sandra and David, with their conservation background, didn't want to do that. So instead of just jumping on the bandwagon and following what the planning permission said, instead they brought in Bill Reed from Regenerative Group, and he did a history of place of the land. So starting from that basis of knowing like who's been there before, we now know that there was a Mayan civilization that lived on the land where the hotel was. It's been coconut groves for centuries. And really having that backstory of the history of place gave them an opportunity to really honor that place and look at it from a perspective of, okay, how can we look at the history and bring back abundance to this land through creating a property that is reflective of the history? So really evolving with the story of the place. So they opened with 5 rooms, and then it grew to 12. Now we have 19 rooms. So it really is, compared to that, okay, you can build 200 rooms here, and we have 19 on 200 acres. So each room has over an acre, technically, of land there.
That's hugely different from the 200-room property cement building that was originally thought to take on that space there. That is really incredible. Prior to this, did David and his ex-wife have a background in hospitality, or this was really a passion project?
Yeah, it's a complete passion project, really. I think both of them were working in conservation in another area of Mexico, and David has a background in marketing. His wife is a dental specialist now. So it literally, was also just a side project. They have another property, Casa Viva in Troncones, which come first. And through that property, they heard of the land down the coast. And, seeing that growth in Troncones, David and Sandra were wise enough to see that, if you don't buy up these swathes of land, then there's a chance that what's happened in Ixtapa or Cancun could come to this coastline, because it is so abundant, it's beautiful, it's wild. There aren't like loads of regulation, because a lot of the land is just sat there because it's historical farming land, or it's coconut groves or mango plantations. But so they saw an opportunity, and it really was a little passion project. Like I say, just 5 rooms to start with, and now 19 in one of the world's best eco hotels. So it's grown. And the project kind of, like I say, it's this like really listening, and I think it is listening to the history of the place has enabled the hotel to to grow with what the land wants from it, and and bringing back that abundance really is helping, like, not just the hotel but the community, and really their vision. It just has naturally formed with how.
That's really amazing. I'm always so amazed and surprised and inspired by people who didn't necessarily come from the background in which they're currently working, but they saw a problem. They wanted to get ahead of it. And they were like, okay, well, if anybody's going to do it, I guess I'm going to do it. I think it takes a healthy bit of crazy to do that.
Yeah. And I think it's just like, these people, they just have it. When people are passionate about something, you can recognize that, and it does rub off like on our team and on the guests. And because it is a smaller property and we are so, like I say, the experience is so of that place, people get really attached to it and they become like family as well. So they become passionate about our project. And it's a really beautiful, special feeling there.
Yeah, of course. It all comes through education. I see that with clients as well, too. When you tell them about why something matters or why it's more important to support X instead of Z, they're like, I didn't think about that. You're right. Like this really matters. I want to get behind that. And you're doing the exact same way with your staff. And then that, creates a ripple effect within the community as well. And I think that kind of leads to our next question is, what does it mean for a hotel to be regenerative or to focus on social impact?
Yeah, I think it's tricky because at the moment, especially definitely since COVID, I would say there's been a big uptake in the benefits of a hotel marketing itself as being eco or being sustainable or regenerative, and throwing all these terms around. And a lot of new hotels are popping up and saying, oh yeah, we're super eco. And their principles maybe, or how it's built is, but if the foundation of what they're running on, like all their concept, they can build a beautiful hotel that is off grid, but if they're not engaging with the community, or if the land that they've built it on is not able to actually sustain that much water usage, then is it eco? So there are all these problems. And I think it's tricky. And I believe that the main kind of basis of regenerative tourism is being solution focused rather than problem based. Obviously, the tourism industry has an issue and it's not wholly amazing and beautiful as the holidays suggest. But regenerative tourism really looks to find solutions in harnessing tourism funds to drive change in the locations that the travelers are visiting. So we really see Playa Viva as a lab, as a whole, as the hotel, as the farm, as our social impact project. We are testing solutions that we're happy for other people in the industry and anyone to come and say, okay, we want to roll that solution out as well. These solutions are looking at, like I say, bringing back that abundance to the land that we're lucky enough to, at the moment, be owners of, or not owners of, but to share. I think as Playa Viva as a model, the solutions that we're looking at are really whole systems thinking based. And it's looking to the community to guide us. And we've spent 15 years developing a relationship with the people in Hudachuca and the 4 other communities that go up the watershed. And those communities, from a base level, if we're not working with them, our guest experience won't be as beautiful as it can be, because the watershed, as I talk of it, is a river system. So the river source is right at the top in the mountains, and then we work with 3 communities that hit that river, and then that river joins our property at the beach. So if we aren't working with the mountain communities and educating the children on why it's really bad that maybe unknowingly their parents are using chemicals and just it's running off into the stream. And then that is then the children in Hudachuca are saying, well, I saw a fish has died. And that's the ripple effect of that. And then our guests, when they're walking along the beach, instead of seeing what they'd see now, loads of fishermen out every night at sunset with their nets, beautiful. If that, the ripple effect from the communities at the top to the river, if we're not working with them to maintain the abundance, then like I say, it impacts our guest experience. So what we're looking for is to listen to the community, and have been doing for the last 15 years, is listening to the community, understanding their needs, and then looking at how we can help them address their needs and create a really beautiful guest experience that is reflective of this place as a ripple effect of that. So, you know, when guests come to Playa Viva, you drive off a national highway onto 200 acres of land that we've left to do as it pleases, apart from the 20-acre permaculture farm and about an acre that we have the hotel on. And when they sleep in the rooms, those rooms are built from natural materials that we've mainly sourced from our land. We've used local carpenters. Some of the roofs are palapa roofs, which we saw historically from our history of place recap, that they were used on the site up to hundreds of years ago. Or then we have the newer treehouses that are floating on the coconut palms that we've transplanted from down the beach. So guests are literally staying in rooms that are built from natural materials, inspired by the land, and then they're immersed in the land, you know, and they're waking up and they can go to a turtle release, which is helping our marine conservation project because we have a turtle sanctuary on site. They're going to breakfast, eating our farm-to-table produce. That farm-to-table produce has come from our 20-acre permaculture farm. That farm, like I say, acts as a lab for permaculture testing methods, and also works with producers all across the watershed to help them return to more regenerative farming methods. So yeah, that ripple effect of the hotel could just sit there and look beautiful, but instead, with every decision we make, we try and take this whole systems thinking approach of how can it benefit the community, how will that benefit the guest. And yeah, I think that on a broad scale is what differentiates like a normal hotel from a regenerative hotel. And like I said, the guest experience as a ripple effect of that is so unique to the land.
Yeah, of course it is. It's really kind of looking at everything holistically, and not just that, yes, we're conserving water or we're protecting the turtles. It's that everything is connected, and you have to be very cognizant of the fact that your hotel, and any hotel for that matter, doesn't operate within a bubble. It operates within a community, which is part of a larger system. And those things all have to be connected and, you know, need to, you know, work together and live together in some kind of a harmonious fashion, or you do end up with places like Cancun. I mean, I'll pick on poor Cancun. But I think probably the people who live near Cancun might not be super thrilled about it.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I think really guests can see when they come to Playa Viva that there is that respect between us and the community and the work that we're doing. All of our staff are from Hula Chuca, Petatlan, or some of the smaller towns around. And, you know, just little things like we don't have name badges for any of the team because we want the guests to feel like they're coming into a home. And it would be really weird if you walked into a home and someone had a badge on saying, "My name's Kerry." You know, it's kind of there with them not having a name badge, it offers up an opportunity for the guest to ask them what their name is. And then that usually flows into a wider conversation of, you know, where are you from? What village are you from? And that then says, oh, and I've been working here for 5 years. Before I started working here, I was supported by the Playa Viva Adopt a Student program. And that made me able to, you know, then get a job in the office here when previously they might have only been like forecast to have a job in the housekeeping department, you know, like things like that. And really just, like opening up conversations and giving guests that chance to connect with actual real local people is a big part of what we do.
Yeah, it's a whole different experience for sure than just going into another hotel, you know, saying, hey, to the reception person and going right to your room and, you know, not thinking really twice about any of your other interactions or anybody else who is there. And so to kind of develop this, regenerative, process and thinking. You have, Playa Viva has different impact pillars. Let's talk a little bit about some of those and, what are the important things that make up these pillars?
Yeah, so since 2020, we've had a more kind of formalized social impact program, which is a watershed regeneration program. As I described, a watershed is a river system. So we call it Resimar, which is regenerating from Sierra to Mar. Sierra in Spanish is mountains, Mar is ocean. So yeah, regenerating from the mountains to the ocean. And that social impact project takes on 4 different pillars. So it's education, permaculture, water, marine conservation, and reforestation. And we work with external experts and have a team of, at the moment, 3 incredible young Mexican women that run that project for us. And like I say, it covers those 4 areas because those are areas that we know there are needs. And where the hotel can have a genuine impact and, like I say, use the tourism funds that the guests are investing in Playa Viva for to make a positive difference in our local communities. So I think, our permaculture node leader, Osmira, always says like a really beautiful thing because I think quite a lot of times when people talk about social impact in relation to kind of more consumer-led social impact, people will say, we just want to empower the local people, or we're doing this to empower and change lives. And I think, yes, it's not wrong, but Osmira, I remember once we were showing some guest rounds around the women's cooperative that she runs, and she said, I don't want to say that I'm empowering these women because those women already hold power. It's not my responsibility to give them power. This project isn't giving them power. It's equipping them with the right tools to harness their power, to have a voice, or to develop their potential, to see that potential, thanks to being equipped with investment that Playa Viva can give them, basically. So I see, our social impact project is equipping local people and our team with the right tools and investment to be able to drive change in the watershed, basically.
That's a really great way to phrase that. I think that really brings the importance of being aware of the people that you are working with and treating them as individuals and not just another housekeeper, another chef. They're far more than all of that. And I was looking through some of your pillars. You also have some really great educational programs in the community, some animal welfare projects, and some cooking classes too.
Yeah. So it, like I said, that Resimar project covers 4 different node areas. So the education program we have is a regenerative education program. So we noticed that the education program in the community was kind of a very standard curriculum. And actually, if we're going to have a sustainable regeneration plan there's no end to it, we need to really engage the small people, the younger people in the community. So we developed a bespoke regenerative education curriculum with Patty Vasquez, who was the one of the in education in the Mexican government. She's a Harvard graduate. And that regenerative education curriculum has now been recognized by Harvard as a leading model for what the future of education should look like. So we are teaching the kids to embrace their history, their culture, and really harness the ancestral knowledge that is in that land instead of just, math, science, all of this. We have a project called Eco Agentes, like the eco agents of the micro cuenca, and they all have their little t-shirts and they go out, and that gives them the agency to say, okay, Jimena, who's our regenerative education lead, we want to run a beach cleanup this week, and the kids are in control of all of this. And they might say, okay, Jimena, in a month, I want to book out the town hall, and we'll invite all our parents and abuelas and everyone to come and talk to them about why it's important that we don't put chemicals on our farming and all things like that. And again, equipping them with the opportunities to pass knowledge up that they're learning in their lessons with Jimena. So that's one small part of the education side of our social impact. And then the marine conservation is something that really started from the very beginning. So the turtle sanctuary was there when they brought the land. So Playa Viva, David will always say, okay, I brought a coconut grove and a turtle sanctuary. And now 15 years later, we have,
as a side note, that sounds like my dream.
yeah. It's beautiful. But so the Tortuga Viva sanctuary or turtle camp has been there for more than 20 years. And through our program, we've engaged 14 local volunteers that are on a schedule. And most of those people would have been people that previously might have poached the turtles, because the turtle eggs have quite a high value in Mexico. And traditionally on those lands, they would have eaten the turtle eggs. So we are, engaging local volunteers. The sanctuary is completely local run, apart from the coordinator that the hotel funds. And that them, again, embracing the history of that place, like turtles. We get 4 different species of turtle to our beach, which is, some of them are incredibly rare. If the sanctuary wasn't there, then there's a high chance that they'd either be poached, or one of the local, tejones, we call them, they're Mexican badgers, would eat them. So the La Tortuga Viva team go out nightly to patrol the beach when the turtles are most likely to come in. And then, as I said previously, the guests have a free turtle release every morning. So it's a sunrise turtle release at around 6 to 6:30 a.m., depending on the season. And that's a really core part of our transformational experience. So like I said before, guests engaging with these events that this morning I woke up and we saw 200 tiny tortugas running across the beach into the ocean, and people come and they're sat at breakfast and they're, it made me really emotional because it's such a start of their life and it makes you think about everything, and you're like, wow, you got all that from looking at a turtle and you don't think it's possible, but when you're there is something. And then our sanctuary coordinator Larissa is able to, if the guests don't speak Spanish, set up conversations between the guests and our local volunteers about the process of the hatching and everything of the tortuga, and why they want to give up their time to work in the sanctuary and what it means to them. And, I think it really also gives our local volunteers that sense of importance, because something for them that they've been waking up since, they were tiny, and they've been able to go down to the beach and see turtles hatching. That for them, that's quite normal. But for our guests, they're crying and getting all emotional. And the volunteers are like, wow, maybe this is more than what we think,
right?
So again, those guest experiences and looking at ways we can unite our guests with our social impact work, enhances the guest experience and gives them that transformational experience, but also enhances their connection to how important it is that they're there and they've chosen to invest their money with Playa Viva and the difference that they're making.
Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to Globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gady Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie pals on escapades to exciting and exotic destinations around the world. Whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat, or staying at a carbon-neutral camp in Kenya during the Great Migration, our adventures are nothing short of spectacular. And guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over, to explore our dazzling lineup of 2024 trips and secure your spot on your next vegan adventure today.
So they've not only seen the little baby Tortuga, but they can feel a bit good about the fact that...
Yeah, it all goes back to then making that connection to where you spend your dollars matters.
Yeah.
No matter what. I always use the example of people buying almonds or your food or whatever. Beauty care products, we pour over labels. We have to do the same things when it comes to tourism. And it all matters. And all of these
giving
things
people that opportunity, to recognize it. Yeah.
Yes, that is important. And so all of these things that you've talked about, they've all led you guys to be able to apply for B-Corp certification and become one of the highest or the highest rated B-Corp hotel in the world, which is amazing. Kudos to you and your team. How did you guys do that? Was that always part of the plan?
No, I definitely wasn't part of the plan. Like I said, when David and Sandra founded the hotel, they just wanted to create a different model. They wanted to bring back prosperity to the land, and they've been doing stuff just wholeheartedly because they were passionate about it. So it's really interesting. I think, like David will always say, that we don't have loads of different certifications because a lot of them aren't relevant to specifically what Playa Viva is doing. It was, some of them will focus on being off-grid. Yes, we're off-grid. We're 100% solar. We process all our waste and water. But it won't look at all the work that we're doing in the community. There wasn't like a whole systems thinking certification really until B-Corp come along. Like a lot of the Green Globe and everything will say they'll give you 10 points if your team cycle into work. Our team can't cycle into work. They cross a lagoon with alligators in, it's not or they have to cycle down a national highway, and if you leave the bikes outside the hotel, they'd rust within a week. So things like that. So I think why David wanted to apply was more not because it's obviously it's a great recognition, but more just because it is a certification that allows you to really take a deep dive into every area of the business. So for David, after we got our certification in January 2023, so they would have started, I think they started the process in 2021 or looking at it. And really for David, it was, we know we're doing well. We know we do all of these different things, but how can B-Corp give us a wider perspective on all of these different impact points? So actually it was good because I think David was expecting maybe to find that, okay, well, we're not very good in that area, so this is something we can really work on. And of course there were little elements of that, but what it actually really the result was that they found that there were things that they'd not considered were an impact point, and really they were. And Dave was, we do that quite well as well, because it really is a really grueling process, and most B Corps take about a year, and they look at, it's not just how your business looks or feels to the consumer, but who you hire, how you hire them, what materials you use to build the property, how you pay people, what your guests, what the messaging you give to your guests. Is there that additional educational element? Where do you get your energy from? All of those different things. It really is a lot of data. I think you have to get over 80 points to certify for B Corp. Most people on their first certification don't reach 80, and then B Corp give you a kind of action plan to get that higher result. And in tourism, the average score, I think, is 82 to 85. And we went in at 110. So,
oh my gosh,
very
congratulations.
good. Yeah.
That's great.
We really, yeah. And I come in just as we were certifying, so I can't claim. I just rode on the bandwagon of the success of I sent out all the press releases we were the highest rated hotel at the time. Now, I think the last time I checked, there were 2 new hotels that had come in higher, but that's great. Like, the industry should be benchmarking against itself. Like, we need to have competition, because now my boss is like, okay, how are we going to beat them? And I'm like, oh God, because we're like coming up to, we'll recertify in January 2026. So throughout 2025, I know my main workload is going to be getting the recertification ready. So yeah, it's exciting. And like, the accountability, I think, is so important. And now it's not like what B-Corp is great as, that it's not, okay, you've got it, so well done, we'll be back in a year. They want to know that there's that continual improvement, and that we are actively working on it. Yeah. If we like recertify and we've done nothing in the last 3 years, then we won't recertify. We'd apply and they wouldn't accept us. So yeah, there is that accountability and pressure, and and like I say, my boss is super keen on it. So yeah, but it's good because, it's kind of like these projects that come up. This year we did a quite extensive supply chain review, so looking at the produce that comes from outside of our 20-acre permaculture farm, because it's great that we can say to guests that, okay, the majority of our produce comes from that farm. For most hotels that will be enough, but David and I were sat there and we were like, but where the other produce? How much do we know about those suppliers that Oscar drives to like 20 minutes down the road to Petitland to the market to buy an extra, like something that we don't have, like seeds or, and we were like, we don't. So, that's something we've done this year. And would we have done it without B-Corp? Maybe, but that's something that I know that it will stand us in good stead if we can turn around to B-Corp in 2026 and say, okay, so now we know all of this about our suppliers. And again, like, the ripple effect of that supply chain review has been super positive in terms of like with our ice supplier. It's so like such a small thing, but we started to notice that it was all coming in plastic bags, and we went to them and said, well, how could we get it if we bring you like a ice box, a cooler, I think you say in America, like, how can you put the ice in the cooler? And they were like, yeah, sure. And then it come, and we were like, yay, and opened it, and the ice was still in the bags but inside the cooler. And I was like, no, we're halfway there. So yeah, and then we asked them like, well, no, what we meant was no plastic. And they were like, oh yeah, but then we can't guarantee that, it's all hygienic in the plastic. Yeah. And we're like, no, because our coolers are just as hygienic. They're washed out with our like water filter system. And actually that plastic has microplastics in. And the man was looking at us like, like, so things like that, like transformational guest experiences, transformational conversations with the community, is little things that, and it's nice that when I sit down with guests and all of our tables in the common area are sharing, so all of our team will sit with guests over meals. It's nice to be able to tell them stories like that. And when they ask about, okay, so what does it mean to be a regenerative hotel? I can give them stories about stuff that I was working on yesterday. Or like, if they want to know how much water the garden used a week ago, I can tell them. Mm-hmm. Or, if a journalist asks me, we have it all there. And that kind of, sense of, it's almost nice when guests ask for it, because you're like, yes, I do have it. Whereas, there's no bluff around it. We've got it. So
yeah, absolutely. It gets them thinking. And I have to imagine that it's probably the first time the person with the ice had a conversation about microplastics, which is great. And I hope that you like planted a seed that then they took home with and thought about, and maybe it'll come up again and you have no idea what they might do with it.
And we are getting the ice without any plastic wrapped around it now. So
terrific. Even better.
Yeah. Small steps.
I think, and I always say this, and I feel like you hear these stories and all of this stuff, it seems like a no-brainer to me, and maybe to you as well. And why aren't companies thinking about these things, especially as we watch as the world literally burns and gets hotter and hotter? Why do you think that these being more intentional isn't becoming more of the standard practice with businesses, or do you think it is?
I think it's tricky. Like I said, I think within hospitality, it is to a certain extent, because some hotels like Playa Viva and hotels within the Regenerative Travel Collection and many others are very honestly working hard to drive change within the industry and create models that are equitable and give guests this vacation that meets their values. But I think there are other hotels that see that using that marketing is beneficial to them, and they may not have the substance to back it up. Like, oh, we have solar panels on one of our roofs. Okay, great. And then they run with that, but they might be importing like 3 trucks of water a day. Yeah. So I think there is that issue of accountability. And yeah, I just think it's tricky, because hospitality and tourism is like crucial for the world economic movement of money. So I don't know if you know, but like hospitality and tourism is the largest voluntary distributor of wealth internationally. So that was a big reason why, the whole world crumbled during COVID. Yeah. But we saw that these communities were failing because they had no tourism funds coming into them, or tourism also employs 1 in 9 people internationally. So the impact that would be seen if all tourism operations operated in a regenerative, ethical way would be incredible. Like, we might not be in this mess if we were listening to the people that are protecting these lands, instead of the Western voices. But I think it is that accountability, and just that this is how the tourism industry works. Doesn't mean it has to, but it's such a big beast. So tackling it from small corners will eventually, I think, drive change. But at the moment, there's just people want to go on holiday. And, it's like you're saying, the two of us might be more aware of why the benefit of staying somewhere regenerative or eco is going to have a much more transformative effect on you and the community that you're visiting. But I can't turn around like when my friends say, oh, I'm going on a cruise, and I'm like, oh God, that's so bad. Don't go on a cruise. But they deserve, my friend is currently on a cruise. He and his partner are both nurses. They deserve that break. And who am I to say, oh no, you should do this instead? They just want to go and escape. And I think, there's that really famous Anthony Bourdain quote that's like, travel should not be escape from life. It's education for living. And but I think some people do just want that escape. That's the issue, that we have very busy lives, and people want to just escape with during their vacation time. So, and tourism and hospitality operations know that. So until there is more accountability in the industry and there are more restrictions, and people recognize that, I think one of the key issues is people not actually recognizing the privilege that they have to travel, or understanding that few people in the world have passports. Yeah. And those people are the ones that have the potential to drive change, because they're investing huge money in these areas of the world that need it. But if they're not doing it ethically, then they're not helping. It's I think a standard tourism model. I had this in 2017 World Tourism Market. Bruce Poontip, the CEO of GA Ventures, was giving a headline talk, and he said, I think it's one USD in every 10 would stay in the destination. So only, if you just kind of go on an all-inclusive holiday or whatever, and people are like, oh yeah, I went to Barbados. I'm like, okay, well, 1 USD of every 10 that you spent actually stayed in Barbados and invested anything in the community. And they might be like, oh, like they just don't realize, because it's just not a thought that would pass most consumers' minds. They just see the hotel and see that the hotel are offering kind of like an excursion into the jungle. But that excursion is probably led by maybe like an American worker that lives there, or like is working at the hotel, and they have a house that they've built in the middle of the jungle that's not like owned by locals or anything. So their money isn't touching anything that they're actually experiencing. So I think until people think of tourism and like their holiday as an investment, and how do they want the legacy of their trip to be, then it's just not going to change. But like I say, people also deserve to travel. I think travel is the most beautiful, transformative thing, so people should. But
I think that is really well said. There's definitely kind of two sides to that. When businesses need to take the responsibility to, be adults, but that doesn't really work with businesses, to, be good stewards of their communities, of their industries, and set an example like you guys do, and like, some other companies do, and, individuals too. We have to just be very mindful of what we're doing. And and that doesn't mean like not going on holiday. It's just thinking about, where are you spending your dollars? Could you do it differently? And I know I talk to a lot of people too that are like, I'm just burnt out and I just want to go anywhere. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. But we could do it a little bit better. And that educational piece it's so important. For everybody that's involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like a lot of guests come to Playa Viva that don't know the impact we have. They've just maybe seen the treehouses and thought, I'd love to stay in a treehouse. Cool. Yeah. Or like they come on a yoga retreat and their yoga leader has just said like Pacific Coast, Mexico, 1 week, massage, yoga, all this. So it is really beautiful to see as they kind of, when they arrive and they're like, oh my God, the tree houses, that's stunning, all this. And then, like I say, when you then start talking to them maybe on like day 2 or 3, when they're really immersed in the Playa Viva zone, and, and they're saying, oh, I had a conversation yesterday with your like education teacher, or Larissa from the turtle camp, and it's so cool that us staying here is donating to the Regenerative Trust that funds all those things. And you're like, like, you making that decision is literally like changing the lives of children and farmers, and the story of this place is changing because you've chosen to come here. And they're like,
light bulb moment.
Light bulb moment. And like basically the aim is that they think about it from a tourism perspective, and how they live their lives at home, and how they invest their money, and the ripple effect of our purchasing decisions. And so it's nice to see that change. It's almost better when someone comes with no knowledge of the concept, and then you see them having these little light bulb moments throughout just genuine experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people who do decide to come to Playa Viva, what could they expect, and how do they get there?
How do they get there? So firstly, we're only 40 minutes from Zihuatanejo Ixtapa Airport. So I mean, I think that's such a gem in itself, because I don't think you can go many places in the world and be 40 minutes from an international airport, but when you get there, be completely immersed in the luxury of nature. That is the Playa Viva experience. Like we were saying, I think people are burnt out and they want that escape. And what we aim to do, or what the land enables us to do, what it gifts us, is that opportunity to really immerse guests in the luxury of nature. So, you drive onto our property down like a little track, and then it just opens up and you've got the Pacific coast, like the waves rolling in. The waves are our free air conditioning. All of the rooms are open air. Like you really are in the elements. You're sleeping in tree houses that are inspired by the manta ray migration that goes out front. They are made from, like I said earlier, like products from the land. You're sleeping in the land. It's very, again, like whole systems thinking even with that. Really, you can walk onto the beach and either way walk for about an hour and not see another building. So really that disconnection and opportunity to switch off from whatever life is offering you at the time. It really is, like a disconnect to reconnect. That David, the founder, loves to say that. And like that's our Wi-Fi password as well. It's like a subtle hint. We only have Wi-Fi in the common area, so in all of the rooms, you're completely switched off. There's minimal electricity, or not electricity, but like we don't have TVs or air conditioning or fridges in the room, so there's none of that hum. Like the only sounds you're hearing are the waves, nature, like birds that are just paradise. And every morning you wake up, you can go for a turtle release, go to yoga. That's all turtle and yoga, completely free. The farm to table buffet that we offer is incredible, and that's like breakfast, lunch and dinner is all farm to table, all on community tables, so you can go alone, go with your family, go as a couple, but you're guaranteed to like meet people and have these really genuine, beautiful, like the conversations that happen in that hotel, I feel like could be a TV series on its own. It's just such a beautiful like mix of people and like a melting pot of culture and conversation. And like I think it's funny because I think people forget the beauty of just having conversations with strangers and allowing, like that space just allows you to do it. Like if you walked into a cafe and just sat down next to someone in America or England, wherever, people would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, what did you do yesterday? I went up to the mountains and met the Gutierrez family, and and I went on the fishing tour, and all these, like it's just, and they're talking about like maybe the fact that they went to the turtle release or they saw whales passing by, and there's just like, I think it's an experience that's so of that place, it's hard to, when you're describing it, it doesn't justify really the beauty of it. But it's a very unique immersion in the luxury of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what about food? So most of our listeners are probably vegan or vegetarian. What kind of veggie options would you have?
We just our kitchen team are incredible. So I'm vegetarian as well, and I find a lot when you're in Mexico, and I was previously a meat eater, so when I traveled around Mexico before, you're having the moles and the tacos and ceviche, all of this, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to give up that when I like go to the hotel. But the team are just so incredible about creating veggie options, or vegan, most of them are vegan options of traditional Mexican classics that you just can't get anywhere else in Mexico really, and they taste just incredible. So, and I think our team actually love it when we have vegans, because it gives them that extra like test. Yeah. Because I remember the first time I was there and we had a fully vegan yoga retreat, and I was, I'm really interested to see like what like I say, it's a buffet service, so it's all family style meals. I'm like, I wonder what this buffet is going to look like when it's all vegan. And now when I see a vegan retreat coming in, I'm like, yes, because they do like soy glazed watermelon steaks.
Wow.
Yeah, like jicama, sashimi. We do a weekly ceviche bar, and the ceviche is like coconut meat or just completely veggie. And there's always at least 1 to 2 vegan options on the buffet. We have the salad bar that's like completely all from our farm, and with like salad dressings that are turmeric from the Women's Cooperative. And on the breakfast buffet, it's chia seeds with coconut milk that Inez comes in and makes every morning at 6 a.m. from our coconuts. Like if you stay in room 11, you literally hear her arrive and like knock down the coconuts and then start like chopping it up. I found that when I was staying there, and I was like, what is that? And then but it's and like the coconut milk is always there to mix with the coffee that comes from the mountains. And it's just, again, like that beautiful connection to the land. Like when I eat there, I know that when I'm eating from the salad bar, it's a salad bar, the salad produce that I've seen the garden team bring in. So every other day or every morning in high season, the garden team or the permaculture team bring in baskets full of all of the produce that they've picked from the farm that day, so the guests can see it, and they put it out on the table. And then, like I say, kitchen team take it away, turn it into stunning salads. And I know that, okay, like Giovanni and Amanda and Gustavo have made that. And then I'm using the turmeric dressing. I know that Osmira, Myra, and Amarani have made the turmeric for that. Like, if I want a chocolate after lunch or a chocolate dessert, I know that the chocolate has come from the Gutierrez family. Our salt is from Doña Quintina down the road. You know, it's all, and all of those things are vegan. But because it's so abundant and nutritious and delicious, a lot of the guests will be there, and like they might be really like, we had a Texan guest that come.
That's a good test.
He was, like a big meat eater. And we'd had the majority of the guests that week were vegan, so majority of the buffet was. And after like 3 days, he was like, oh yeah, I can't eat without meat, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, you know, you have no meat on your plate. And he was like, oh, well. Like, and you just didn't, like, because you just go up and you take, you know, like, again, it's quite a beautiful thing about the experience. Like, just your decisions are removed because you just have the buffet, and it's not like when you sit in a restaurant, you're like, oh, I need to look and see what's not got meat in it, or you don't have those like little stresses that you don't even realize are stressing you to think about, because there's just this buffet of abundance and nutritious, delicious veggies and vegan things that and people don't even realize that they're missing any meat or fish.
Right. That is a really amazing story. I'm sorry, what was that?
It is there if they want it, like meat and fish, but it's all from our local fishermen or our farm. So
that's an amazing story, and I hope he comes back after having a really good.
Yeah, he's booked again. They've booked like the next 2 years in a row for the same weeks. Yeah.
Oh my, that's terrific. And I guess
a lot of our guests do that they come. They just it's so, like I say, something so special about that place that. When I got there, a lot of David was like, oh, they've been here 7 times. They've been here 8 times. And like, so I sat down with them and I was like, well, tell me about the hotel, because, you know, I'm brand new, but if you've been here for the last 8 years,
you know everything. Yeah.
So it's nice usually when guests are leaving, they're like, when can we rebook? So,
that
he's
has
coming
to feel really good, for sure. So as we wrap up, for travelers who are trying to make more conscious and value-driven travel choices, what kind of advice do you have for them?
I mean, I just think it's that, like we were saying, like thinking about how you're investing your money and the ripple effect of that, and making, if it's going to cost you $20 more to eat in a locally owned restaurant or stay at a locally owned or independent hotel, that money isn't going to mean anything to you really, or your bank balance and everything. But like to that community and those people that work there and are supported by that operation, it can like little things like that can change their life. So yeah, I think just thinking about the ripple effect, thinking about the legacy of your trip, because it's not just you going on holiday, it's everyone you interact with on that trip. You have the potential to make a difference, and then you feel better about it as well. So
I think that's excellent. That is a very excellent point, a great place to leave everybody as they're starting to think about things for 2025. And I appreciate you so much joining me today. Thank you, Kerry.
No, thank you. It was fun.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.